Yo, what's up everyone? Daniel Yuck here. Thank you all for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Today I want to go ahead and bring you all episode 2 of our critiquing series here. Now, before we actually dive in and I start, relaying information accordingly, I want to point out, as I did on video 1 or episode 1, and I want to state here that because I am critiquing here and giving my artistic insight, it does not mean that I am any better than you. It does not mean that I am more qualified. It does not mean that I do better tattoos than you. All this simply is basically asking another fellow artist about some insight that they can possibly shed and give you, and so that way you can take that information, that insight, and do what you want with that information. So again, in a nutshell, that's what this is for. I just want to point that out. I'm not here to make anyone feel bad, bash anyone's art. I'm not here to discourage. I am here to help and shed light wherever I can do so. So with that being said, let's go ahead and proceed accordingly. So for the first piece of art here, I'm going to kick it off with Jerry Welsh's rose right here, as you can see. So at first glance, the rose looks nice. It's not a bad rose at all. Let me zoom in here and match the colors, that way I can stencil it better here for you. So one thing that I am noticing off the bat here is the grays. So for example, the shades right here, as you can see, there's like some really black shading there, and over here it's more light. So it's a bit, I would say, maybe rather inconsistent in terms of shading. I would definitely put a little bit more time into the gray washing that I'm using. And as you see right here in the middle, the rose gets lost a little bit. So I'm not too certain, where the stencil was originally. However, you can kind of see that though. So I think getting a gray wash system, focusing on making a gray wash system that you are truly comfortable with would be a good way to go, or to start would be one of the things that I would do. And on top of that right here, as you can see, some areas the lines are pretty decent. Others though, as you can see, the depth right here, for example, changes. So you can see it over here as well. So you were pressing harder right here, it came up a little bit, and then you press harder again, and then it came up a little bit. So the depth is a bit inconsistent, which reflects in the lines. So if you were just to go back and when you're pulling lines, really take your time to saturate the areas that you're lining over. I think that if you can get it in the one pass and just do nice and consistent lines all the way through, that it would make for a better quality tattoo. The rose would read better. That's not to suggest that this is bad, because this is not a horrible tattoo. I just feel execution could have been executed a bit better, and to do so would maybe require a bit more patience upon applying the lines. So when you're pulling your lines, try and adjust your hand speed and voltage to where you get each and every line nice saturated within the first pass. If you have to go back over a line, that's cool. I've seen artists go over a line several, a couple of times to get it to their liking. Majority though, we can get one passes. And as you can see though, with cleaner lines, the tattoo automatically starts reading better. And granted, this is on the iPad, so I know it's easier said than done. However, again, going back to, if the lines were a bit cleaner on the tattoo, the overall read on the tattoo would read with a bit more quality. And I think, if I'm correct, you're using real skin. I love real skin as well. I'm a big fan of that skin as well. But you can kind of see right here in just this little area with more solid saturated lines how the tattoo is looking better. So if I go right here and we draw some lines in, and I know that this shouldn't be a dense line tattoo. I'm not sure if you're going for a dense line tattoo or no line rose. However, with a little bit more of clean lines with the appropriate execution, does make for a better read on the tattoo. Let me see if I can just do some lines here real quick to kind of demonstrate my point. I do like the areas that you put the shading in though. The areas that you saw the shading in aren't bad. I do agree with them. But the tones that were used, I don't fully agree with. But as you can see though, just cleaning up the lines and making nice, dark, crisp, saturated lines makes for a better read on the tattoo overall. And that's going to be fully subjective. If you weren't going for a line tattoo, this may not be something that you want to do. But for this tattoo specific, that's how I would go about repeating the execution or going back over everything with lines and making everything more readable, more apparent, and then trying to clean up some of the shading a little bit with a nice, more transitioned gray wash system there. Overall though, it's not a horrible tattoo, it's not a bad tattoo. Again, execution was just a little bit under where we would want it to be, which is why we practice on practice skin. But overall though, you can kind of see now like the parts that aren't done versus the parts that are. Let me actually, okay, so we are all the way up. So you can see here the difference that having nice saturated lines makes on the read of the tattoo. Very nice saturated lines do make for a better quality, and that's just my opinion. It's not like anything that's true or anything like that. That's just the way that I like my tattoos to look, which is why I tell you at the beginning of the video, this does not make me more qualified to do better tattoos than you. This is just simply the way that I would approach it. But overall though, this is not a bad tattoo. It is a nice tattoo. Granted, giving it a little bit more work, it can go and be made into a great tattoo. But as you see, that's basically where I would start, is with cleaning up the lines. I'm very big on lines. Like, my lines have to be clean on my tattoos for them to look the way that I want them to look. Overall though, that's where I would start. I would figure out a nice smooth gray wash system, and I would also go back in and pull smoother lines, smoother saturated lines, so that way the tattoo reads better overall. So that's what I would do for this one right here. But overall, you can kind of see the difference of with the lines and without. Very nice, very cool tattoo. I genuinely appreciate your submission, Gary. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next submission was going to be from Jim Louis Kadampog. If I mispronounce your name, please forgive me. So Jim Louis Kadampog, let me see here. I'm going to actually turn the tattoo this way so I have a bit more room to work with. So floral are some of my favorite tattoos to do. I love doing floral tattoos. This tattoo right here is actually pretty well executed. There's not much like that I would say about it. I do like this specific tattoo. It's nice. Just some things that I noticed off the bat is like right here, I think in this area where the line work could have been a bit better right here. So I think what I'm seeing is like maybe when you were pulling the line, you probably pulled it from here to here maybe, and then you pulled out obviously, and then you probably restarted again, but the confidence of tapering in and out may not have been fully there with you, because again, we do have a bit of inconsistencies, as you can see right here. That's the only thing that my eye notices. What I would recommend is simply trying to break the tattoo down into pieces. What I mean by that is, for example, I have to pull a line from here to here, and then I have to pull one from here to here, completing this design in between. So I refer to that as A to B. So I'm going to start from my A. A is my starting point, B is my finishing point. I would focus on pulling straight lines and getting fluid motions, so that way you don't have to pull up the needle out if you don't have to. So I'm at A, and then I'm going to go to B. I did that in one fluid motion. I'm at A, and I'm gonna go to B. As you can see, one nice fluid consistent motion. And the way that I'm putting the information into this design right now is the exact same way that I would put the ink into the skin. So I'm at my A, and then I'm going to go to my B. And sometimes when they're longer lines, I actually like kind of recreate the motions that I'm going to do before I pull it on the skin, so that way I'm more familiar with what I'm going to be doing. So I would recommend doing that, focusing on that aspect, A and Bing your entire way through the tattoo. But this is actually really nice. This is a really nice tattoo. I love what you did with the shadings. I love how there's like negative space in between right here. That's awesome. I love the way that looks. The stipple approach, the pepper shading looks nice as well. So overall, all in all, I'm very happy with this tattoo and the way that it reads. However, just like little things like that, like right here, I would have maybe gone like A to B, and then, you know, readjusted my positioning accordingly, and then A to B. So that's basically how I would approach that. Again, there's not much that I would say like, oh, this is bad, this is, you know, we should do this. Like, again, I'm not here to do that to anybody. Overall though, this is really well executed. I'm very, very happy with the results of this tattoo. This is a really nice tattoo. And again, like if you just really pay attention, like right here, A, and then, you know, to B, and then A to B, A to B, A to B, and then A to B. You get my drift with this. So that's basically what I would recommend, is just to practice A and Bing your way through every step of the tattoo. So that way when you are pulling these lines and you are putting the ink into the skin, you are getting nice, smooth, you know, one pass lines as opposed to choppiness here and there. That's all that I would really recommend. Overall, great execution, well done tattoo. I love this tattoo. This is actually one that I would get on me as well. Very well done. I genuinely appreciate your submission. Thank you very much, Jim. So the next submission is going to be from Ardiana. If I'm pronouncing these names incorrectly, please forgive me. It's not my intent. Some names are a bit more difficult for me to pronounce. So for this specific tattoo, off the bat here, I am not certain if this is practiced like on human skin or if you're familiar with tattooing on human skin. I don't know your specific situation. I'm not going to discourage you from doing what you're already doing on your end. However, one thing that I am noticing right off the bat is if we zoom in right here, so as you can see, there's lines right here, but around those lines, we have these like areas. So what these are blowouts. This is what a blowout looks like. The needle configuration that you're using may have been thin. It's probably maybe like a 5-7 round liner, maybe a something like that. I'm thinking it's maybe a 5 or 7 round liner, maybe even a 9 round liner. I am not sure. However, that needle went too far into the skin. We hit the hypodermis, and as you see that there is blowouts. I don't recommend practicing on human skin for this reason. This isn't completely done and over with though. Like, it's not a well executed tattoo. It's not a great tattoo or anything like that. However, it's not something that I can sit here and say, oh, this is horrible or anything like that. So I'm feeling neutral about this tattoo. So I want to give you my most neutral approach on what I would do with this. Now, the design is pretty cool. It's different from what I normally see as well, which is something that I like. What I would do is, I would, like, for example, this butterfly right here, I would simply just kind of, when I get a better skill, or when I get better skilled, I would go back over, because this can be fixed. I would, you know, go back over and kind of do as I see fit. I would retrace the lines that are already there, like so. And then when I do this, what I would do after that is add a little bit of shading where those blowouts are at. So basically what I would do is make those blowouts work in our favor, because they do start from the middle right here and kind of fade out. So with the appropriate technique and needle configuration, we can make it look like those blowouts are supposed to be there, so to speak. Now, going like this, I would go this way. Okay, so I would finish the outline, making sure that I didn't blow this out any more than it was. And then what I would kind of do is get a maybe 3 round liner after I practice and just kind of whip the needle out that way. And again, this is not going to represent shading, but I'm just showing you the motions. And I would do the same thing this way. So what that's going to do is going to give us like a gradient effect this way. It's going to give us a transition faded effect this way, shading going out. And the same thing over here, I would do that. And then the same thing this way, I would fade out that way. And I would do a little bit from the wings coming in this way. Again, making these blowouts work in our favor, as you see. And again, I know this is not representing shading, but that's the motions in which I would move my needle. And as you see right here as well, until I got a nice gradient effect. And this area right here within the butterfly all of this area is the area that's going to stay with your skin tone. So the negative space of the skin, the negative, your skin tone color is going to show up through with the shaded on the outside of the butterfly, giving it a nice overall look. So that's basically how I would approach that area. And then these little like dots and stuff right here, I do see right here, here is another blowout as well. There's not really much that we can do with this simply because it's a line, maybe bold it out even more than it is, you know. What this looks like though, like how some of these lines, like you see how right here we're a bit inconsistent and the lines aren't fully straight. I think that upon tattooing ourselves, we weren't fully comfortable, fully planted, so we may have had like our hand floating with the needle floating, and we're trying to pull a line while keeping our hand straight. That's what this looks like to me. I could be, you know, completely wrong. However, with the proper execution on any tattoo, as you know, any tattoo, it's always going to look better when the lines are well executed. Same thing for this little butterfly. I see a minor little blowout right here, but again, we can do this just like the other one, where we re-outline it nice and carefully, making sure that we don't blow it out anymore. And then the same thing with the smaller configuration, fade it out from the middle, and then the same thing from the wings a little bit. Since this is a smaller butterfly, I would do the outside fading in just a bit more subtle, not heavy at all. That's how I would approach that. And you can even see just with those lines right there, it actually looks really cool like that. I like the way that it looks with these lines like that. So I would basically have this approach for the entire tattoo, like this circle right here. I hate doing circles in tattoos. They're just really difficult. So I would just go and just touch everything up to the best of my ability, ensuring that I don't blow out the tattoo anymore. So this line right here is a little bit different. So I stated here on this line over here that there's not really much we can do to fix that. Looking at that other line, I was actually wrong. So we can go right here and kind of just fatten the line up a little bit, like so, covering up that blowout just like that. I mean, sometimes less is more. It really is that simple. That's how I would approach that. But yeah, overall though, for this type of tattoo, I think the execution needs just to be worked on. Study the needle depth a bit more in terms of knowing where the dermis is and what to look and listen for and feel for upon putting ink into the dermis. These little things are very, very important and do make for a better tattoo. Same thing for this heart. As you can see, this is blown out as well. I would approach it the same way, just with a smaller configuration. Just kind of fade it in this way all the way down. And it's gonna look organic. It's not gonna look blown out. It's gonna look nice, little shades there. But yeah, overall, I would just recommend to invest into some silicone products, whether it's a hand, some fake skin, and practice a little bit on needle depth. Get familiar with, you know, where the ink goes and how to put it into the skin, and then get familiar with techniques such as like whip shading, stipple shading, dot work, and stuff like that. And then I guarantee you, had you have invested a little bit of time into practicing on fake skin, when you come back to redo this tattoo, it will look way better. The results would have been more cleaner. But that's basically what I have to say on this specific tattoo right here. As you can see, it does make a difference on all of these little changes. Yeah, that's how I would approach that. Thank you very much for your submission, Ardiana. I genuinely appreciate it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next submission is going to be from Devin Smith-Rick, if I'm correct. So Devin Smith-Rick submitted these two tattoos right here. I would like to touch base on this one specific because I personally love mandalas. Mandalas are my favorite style tattoo to do. So I'm going to just match the color, the tone of here. So this is actually a really nice design. I really love complex, complicated designs like this right here. For me though, one thing that I'm seeing right off the bat upon reading actually both of the tattoos is the line work. So allow me to zoom in here. As we can see right here, this right here, why we get these sort of results, like how it's lighter right here. You see how this line, there's a space in between right here, this line. Right here, we have a whole bunch of patchiness right here. This right here is due to the depth and speed that you are in. So basically, like when we are passing over the area, so let me see if I can find an accurate area. So like right here, this line is still lighter than it should be. So when we're passing over the skin, we're moving a bit too fast for what our needle is pushing. So if you're running, for example, around 7.5 volts and you're moving too quickly, these are the results that we may get right here. So that's what I'm seeing right off the bat, is that the line work is a bit inconsistent. The designs are cool. I'm a big fan of the designs. Both of them are awesome. However, the line work is a bit inconsistent. For something like this, what I would recommend practicing is finding the dermis, knowing where the dermis is. Why I say that is because if you know where the dermis is at, you're going to be able to put the needle, where the ink, you're going to be able to put the needle and ink where it needs to go each and every time with no problem. So blowing out would no longer really be an apparent issue, even though we're all prone to blowouts. Knowing where to put the ink into the dermis is going to give you much more confidence to go ahead and pull lines. After you find out where the ink needs to go, that's going to allow you to get your depth correctly. From that point forward, you can begin to work on consistency and the needle depth, if that makes sense. So you can be able to work on the consistency after you know where the ink needs to go. So if you're kind of like winging it and you're guessing the ink should be right here, well, the entire way, how can you really be confident? And that's not just for you, that goes for everybody. This is for all of us. If we do not know which layer the ink goes into and we don't know what to look for, we don't know what to feel for, then at that point we are genuinely winging it. So practice the needle depth, practice finding the dermis, in which I've also made a full in-depth review on my YouTube channel on how to find the dermis. Once you do that, then you can start practicing your consistency, and then you can start working on your needle depth and speed, and start building everything accordingly. For this though, that's how I would approach it. If this was my issue, if this was the tattoos that I've done, this is exactly where I would start, is finding out where the ink goes. And then once I find out where the ink goes, from that point forward, I can then go and start pulling much more cleaner lines with confidence, because confidence has everything to do with doing a good tattoo. If we don't have the confidence that we need, then the lines are going to reflect the way that we are thinking and the way that we feel upon doing the tattoo. So as you see though, if I were just to go back over with nice, smooth, consistent, clean lines every step of the way, it's going to make for a better read in the tattoo. A better read in the tattoo means a better quality tattoo to me. So as you see though, right off the bat right here, even just this little area doing those few lines, this design is looking better. Mandalas are a very tough style to do, as we have little room for error, and that's one of the main reasons why I chose to do mandalas, because I like that. I like to be hyper focused. I like to really push me to do things that are difficult for me. So that's why I like mandalas. To me, mandalas are difficult right now, especially when I do custom mandalas, because I make them really advanced and a lot of detail. But overall, see, so you can see right here, this part, I'm just A and Bing my way through to be as consistent as I possibly can, which is making for a better read on the tattoo. And I would do this every step of the way until I am done. And right here, you see how like this, the line right here, for example, it starts off smaller and then it goes to this bigger area. That's probably because when we pulled the first line, it didn't come out to our liking. It may not have been light enough, it may have been crooked, or whatever the case may have been. And then we went back over and then we ended up with a thicker line than we should have. So that's why it's important to know where the dermis is and to work on being able to pull nice, solid, saturated, one pass of lines, especially for these type of tattoos. The last thing I want to do for mandalas is have to go and, for example, I'm right here, pull out, and then have to go back in and finish it. Even though I'm fairly good at tapering in and out, this is something for me I would just want to do in one smooth, fluid motion to make for a better read. And this is just my opinion. But as you can see though, that's how I would approach it, just working on the depth, knowing where the ink goes, and then being consistent, A and Bing every step of the way, A to B. So A, B, A, B, A, B, and you get my drift. That's basically how this would go. A, B, Very simple, very straightforward stuff. That's how I would approach that specific, mandala style piece. This little area is what I did, and it does make for a better read on the tattoo when everything is pulled clean. And again, I can't exhaust that enough. I always have fun doing mandalas because of the dense details and the hyper focus that I have to apply. To me, that's just something that I like to do. So yeah, there we have it. That's how I would approach that. And then for this one, same rule of thumb, like A and Bing and knowing where the ink should go, like how deep to go, is going to make for a better read. So if I go over here, I was gonna try and fill that in, but like for example, so if this area was all supposed to be black right here, saturating it completely would make for a far better read on the tattoo. And these are the little things that start adding up. See, so as you can see, just that little area looks nice and saturated. If I did the same thing to the chin area right here, it makes for a far better read on the tattoo. And this really comes down to, again, finding that dermis and taking our time. I can't exhaust that enough for this specific submission here. I'm gonna go ahead and patch this up and then we can take a look at what it looks like. So as you can see, just these little areas alone are making for a better read in the tattoo, like with the eyes as well. If you were just to go and, flick it out like that, it would create for a more organic look there. So it's just little things like that, knowing where the ink goes, technical application. I feel that's where I would work on. Overall though, great designs. I genuinely appreciate your submission. Thank you very much, Devin. I genuinely appreciate you. Let's go ahead and move on to the last one. So the last one was from an anonymous submitter. They did not want to be named for this specific tattoo, which is totally fine. So for this specific tattoo right here, let me actually match color. So for this specific tattoo, I think what I'm looking at, if I'm correct, this definitely looks like it was lined with a mag, or yeah, so this looks like it was with a mag. This looks like this maybe was like some sort of 11 round liner, maybe. That looks like pretty bold, so that may be an 11 round liner. Same thing for the teeth. Now, the design's cool. I genuinely love the design. I love the overall like look of the design. One thing that I am noticing though that my eyes like just go straight to is the execution. So when I say that, what I'm referring to is like, for example, the little imperfections right here. It kind of seems as though we may have been rushing, and again, this is just me speculating from what I see right here. Why I say that is because right here, as you can see, the stars should have connected right here, as opposed to making two completely different lines. So I'm not sure, attention to detail, if we just kind of overlooked that there. But how I would have approached that is, on this last line, I would have just simply brought it right here and connected it to that. So one thing that I am noticing though is the attention to detail and the execution, the line work. The confidence may have been a little under what we needed for this specific tattoo. So basically what I would do, where I would start for this tattoo, like let's say this was me, I did this tattoo yesterday, I'm here to practice today again. What I am going to work on today is slowing down the process and paying attention to the details. Let's say, for example, I'm going to line right here. So this little area, I'm probably going to use an 11 round liner. I personally don't like to line with mags because there's just a lot of room for inconsistencies, like right here. for example, and I don't like that. I want my lines to look nice, consistent, and smooth. So let's say I'm going to start with lining this with an 11 round liner. I'm also going to want to focus on putting the ink into the correct layer each and every time I put the needle down. I also want to focus on my hand speed and the needle depth in which the tip of my needle is in the skin. So I say to focus on the consistency and finding the dermis, so that way you know where the ink goes. Once you know where the ink goes, you can then again have more confidence to go ahead and pull your lines from A to B while staying in the dermis the entire way through, which would create a better quality tattoo. So to demonstrate, I'm gonna line right here. So I found my A to B, and then I'm going to repeat that A to B process until I'm done with this section of the tattoo. And I'm trying to stay as consistent as I can without having to move. Right here, for example, you see how this line right here doesn't connect to this piece when it should? Little things like that are going to start taking away from the tattoo. So if we're doing this enough throughout the tattoo, these little imperfections are going to read in the tattoo, and it's going to take away from the quality, which is why it's super important to keep a slow, steady pace from the jump. Don't get ahead of yourself, and A and B it every step of the way. So A, B, and then the same thing right here. I don't know which line was supposed to be there, but for this I'm gonna go with a darker line. And that's how I would approach that, just every step of the way, you know, A and B in it, making sure that every time I pull a line, they're nice and even and consistent. Same thing with these right here. So I'm gonna go A, and then I'm just gonna, you know, go all the way around until I am uncomfortable. If I can make it, I can, and I could. And then I'm gonna go A to B again. And then you'll start seeing that all of these little movements and these little choices that we are making in the tattoo process are going to make for a quality tattoo. It really does require a specific style of patience to do nice tattoos. So like right here, I would just, as best as I can, A to B all the way around. I don't know where this goes, if it goes like that, but we're gonna do it that way. And then the same thing right here. I think that this comes around A to B. So you can kind of see from this little area that the tattoo is looking more clean. I'm gonna repeat this a little bit more on the hand just to kind of give us a better impression of what I'm trying to demonstrate. And then, you know, flicking, stuff like that, knowing how to whip the needle out to a little point like that is going to make for, again, for a better quality, a better readable tattoo. We want every line that we pull to be as perfect as it possibly can. We don't want any imperfections or anything like that. And again, I've made, you know, imperfections in my tattoos as well. However, if this is a thought process that we have behind doing the tattoo, then we're gonna make a better tattoo over not thinking this way at all. Because then we're not gonna be paying attention to detail. We're gonna be very inconfident, and you know, there's just a lot of room for error when not having the appropriate mentality and mindset when doing tattoos, and the appropriate confidence needed as well. So very cool, very nice. And as you see though, right off the bat, this area is looking a lot cleaner right here, as you can see. I wonder if I can kind of just make it up here real quick. Make this a little bit bigger to cover up more space. I like how you separated the fingers with, you know, shadings like that. That's cool. So it is looking way cleaner. So you can kind of get my drift with that. And then the same thing with everything though, like this right here, A, and try to be consistent as you can. Even if you have to, try the movements before you put the needle down, just to give you a little bit more experience of what you're going to be doing prior to pulling the lines. That would make for cleaner lines, I feel. So as you can see though, that may have been a little too thick for that area. That's exactly how I would approach this though. I would just go back in and clean up the lines as best as I could. Just making sure everything was executed to the best of my ability here. Let me make it a little bit thicker. And you can see though, when you start taking the time and pulling the lines, the quality of the tattoo starts going up, and every line, every clean line you start pulling begins to start adding up. So you can kind of make out what I am doing. You can make out the points that I'm trying to make with this small area that I am tattooing. I would have lined it all with a liner, maybe like a round shader, probably. Not a liner. I would have lined it with like a round shader over a mag just to get a smooth, clean look. But again, that's me. Everybody's different. I've seen a lot of people line with a mag and they like to do so, and you know, to each their own. But that's just how I would have approached this specific, because I'm more comfortable with a round shader. But overall though, that's exactly what I would do. Just clean it all up, execute everything a little bit better. As you can see, this small area it is reading better right here. That's how I would approach that. That's what I would do. And right here as well. So like right here, and like the teeth area and this area, again, let me see if I can just demonstrate. If I just pull one nice clean line down right here, off the bat, it's making already for a cleaner read, and then I can just continue the process accordingly. And then the teeth right here as well, I would have just straightened these up or cleaned them up right here, clear the line work on them, and then set that black as well. So I feel like it's patchy like that because the dermis, we're not knowing fully where the ink should go. So therefore we may be doubting, you know, or winging it, which is what this may look like. And I'm just gonna clean up a few of the teeth here. I'm just showing you the most apparent things that stand out the most to me here. And then like right here, for example, I would have cleaned this up right here as well. And then the throat area as well. Right here. Making nice, smooth, consistent lines. So everything starts adding up, making a better read once the execution is correct. Overall though, those are the things that I would work on: the execution, finding the dermis, and then pulling nice, solid, saturated one-pass lines. That's basically where I would begin though, is, you know, finding and getting familiar with where the dermis is. Overall though, this is not a bad design at all. This can definitely be cleaned up and made into something great. You can kind of tell right here in the areas that I was working on, it is shaping up the tattoo to be a better tattoo. I genuinely appreciate everyone who has submitted their submission to the critiquing episode 2. Yet again, thank you very, very much. I genuinely appreciate it. Should you have any questions at all throughout anything in this video, if I didn't touch base on something specific that you may have wanted to know, please feel free to drop it in the comments below, and I'm going to do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. If you're not, be sure to go ahead and give me a follow on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, as I would genuinely appreciate your support. I do have social medias all under the same name at Daniel Yuck. That is DanielYuck, Daniel Yuck. Thank you for tuning in yet again. I would appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for me, as I will be bringing more videos like this. You have a great day.